I've had a lot of people asking me about the abs, the torso, how to draw abs, how to draw the connection, the squishy middle part of the torso. Well, I'm gonna give you the hot details of abs today. The six pack would technically almost honestly be these sections here, this middle one, this one right above the belly button, and this main section below the belly button that goes down to the pubic symphysis or whatever. This is where your genitals are right here. This top section here would be the Greek arch, right, which is on the rib cage, basically. At least that's how I remember it, in order for things to be, organized in my head. Now, good resources I think I'll go into first is definitely Taco. Get Taco books, or if you can't afford the Taco books, just go on Pixiv. He posts all of his stuff on Pixiv. You can just basically copy like the 3,000 drawings that are on Pixiv and just copy through all of it. I copied through every single page of this book every single day, for like my fundamentals training. If we look at Taco abs, you can see that it's very, very simplified. If we look over here, you have the Greek arch ones, which is what I'm talking about up here. And then you have ab. Let's jump right into it. I have panty and stocking, the new panty and stocking with garter belt. They have some abs, so we're going to be looking at polyurethane and polyester. We want to definitely build out the main gesture of everything. So we have the main rib cage dropping down here. I'm using the box to try to capture the perspective and the angles like this. Then we have the center line dropping down like this, nice and gestural. We have the second box, which would be the pelvis, dropping down kind of like this, like that. And then we just connect the two boxes nice and simply. So we have the edge of the box right here. This is what I'm looking at. There's an edge on the box like this, and then it goes down, right? The shadow is capturing it. So then we'll bring up the edge, bring in the V taper, go like this. Okay, so now that we have, this is facing the front, this is facing the side, we have the abs in the middle. Let's keep cutting into the shape and making everything look smooth. So we have the arch for the rib cage going down, and then the rib cage wraps around like this, right? This is hidden, but I still drew it anyway, just so that we can all see. We have the false abs, the fake abs, as I'm calling them, because they sit on top of the rib cage. This. So it's these ones up here. This is more of a rib cage muscle, right? But you can still think of them as abs. So I'm going to basically mark out the form. This is the form, right? We have the pectoralis major coming down like this. So this is different. And now we're actually on the abs, the ones that are connecting all of this. So for the abs, the way that we can easily start it off is just division. Keep splitting it up. So for here, we find where the belly button is, which would be basically a little bit lower than halfway. It's this one right here. This would be the belly button, right above the pelvis area. And then you can start bringing in the small details. So here, we have this main last final ab that goes all the way down to your crotch. We can also start to bring out the edges of it so that we lock everything in. This would be the edge. We have one big loop, 1 second loop. This is a really common pattern. You'll see a lot of artists do. You'll do one big one, one small one. And then for more detail, you can add in a second arch, this like a second point. And then that'll create this. We don't draw the specific details. You want to draw the big shapes and then slowly add in the extra stuff. So we have this. Now, if we want to make it nicer and cleaner, I'm going to just lightly erase parts of it, the more finer details, now that we have things mapped out. So I have this ab coming down like this, ab dropping down like this. I have a shadow coming down like this to capture shape ab down to the belly button. Nice shadow. It goes down. This shadow, I'm not too sure but I would assume that it would be part of the just like you know, indiscriminate muscle plus adding on to the external obliques over here. So you can add it if you want to. I'll just have it in vaguely like that. This here, we can mess with the silhouette slightly so that it captures the ridges. That. Then we have these shadows coming down. So let's look at the forms, because that's all I talk about is forms. Boom, the form dropping down, this, down, this. So these are the 3D forms that wrap around the ab structure. Basically, you want to do abs last is the idea. You want to mark out everything and then slowly do abs. Or you can have a simple ab to start us off. So then once we have all of this, we have the general idea of where everything is. Let's bring out the abs. So let's first enclose the shape of the abs. It'll kind of go like this. It'll pinch around the belly button. You want to try to mark out where the belly buttons are. Obliques, obliques. Now we can start adding in the other abs. So you have one more ab right over here. The hidden ab, which is basically just the little bit of muscle that's on top of the rib cage. That's on the Greek arch, which is right underneath the pecs. So that's what we see in this shadow here. So this area up here would be the half ab. And then here you have full ab, and then the pelvic ab right here, which is this one. Each ab has its own, you know, structure like this. You want to make sure that the lighting would capture that form. Let's go back into a diagram real fast. Let's go into with this. So we have the gesture, we're capturing that, we're getting the hips in, going out like this, going out like this. You can see that I'm basically building out all the proportions, making sure everything looks good, going from big to small, getting this V line right here. And then we have the belly button, we can mark that. I want to bring out the main forms and then start adding in the details. Always go from big to small. You can bring out the pecs a little bit. Then have this part, which I'm calling the false abs. And then we have 1, 2, 3. So when you see an 8-pack, the 8-pack would be basically pronouncing this, 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 and this. And here would be the external obliques. So now let's wrap them up nicely. So we have the rib cage dropping down like this. And then we have the external obliques rolling down like this to wrap the abs up. So then your abs is basically this whole shape right down here. That'll be the abs. And then their shadow, help define them. Yeah, that'll be the idea for abs. Let's keep going. I want to redo this one. We look at more abs. Always draw a lot. Study a lot. So here we see the more simplified version, right? If we look at the abs, we have our pelvis dropping down this, like that. We can see here, this top part here would be the Greek arch abs. So those are basically sitting on top of the Greek arch of the rib cage. So these abs are like up here. That's only for like super buff people, you know? But then if you want to, but then the main abs would be the ones that are down here. This. I would do the 2 lines like that. And then you can have it wrap around this pelvis. You have your external obliques wrapping around your pelvis line. This is just focusing on abs. And this would be just a more gentler, you know, less in your face idea about abs that I like doing more. Then you can have the shadows really indicate the form. Keep in mind the thinness of the abs. They're thin, right? Because you have these external obliques that are on the outside of them. And then you also have your sartorius or your serratus anterior muscles going down like this. This part here is indented because here is the iliac crest. It is subcutaneous, which means there's no muscle or fat covering it. No matter how big or how thin you are, you will always be able to feel this. So here, I'm just going to talk about it, right? You can see this rib cage. This is where the rib cage would be, down here. And then you have your main ab, which is split into two, and then you have your pelvis abs over here, dropping down. Belly button would be right here, and then it kind of cuts around like that. So now let's look at a more subtle example, which is from Uma Musume's Pretty Derby. And this is really what's going to sell the subtlety of everything, because no one's going to have, fully decked out abs like these guys. So for these, I want to focus on the shadow, how to shade the abs, and just how to have more subtle ideas with it all. So we started off the same way. We bring it with the angle for the rib cage, and we bring out the gesture like this. We can bring in the pinch of the waist already, just so we can find this silhouette. Now let's look at the abs. I would immediately go for the line, the double line idea, the double line method. And then we find our belly button. We have our belly button marked out. Now let's start to split everything up. I'm going to draw out the full abs, and then we can go from there. So we have the bottom part abs right here, going down to the pelvis. We have, this is the Greek arch abs here, so they're not really shown. And then here we have our main abs, or like our top belly button, above belly button abs, like this. And then we can split our above belly button abs to make 1, 2, 3. This whole thing is the bottom one right here. This is all one ab down here. This would be the underlying anatomy for it, like that. So now let's go into the shading. So how does this shading work out? We have light coming down from this side, this, and we can see the form already. So let's see how it matches out. So immediately we see that since this form is like this, we just put this whole line down here into shadow. That we start off by doing this for shadow. Next is we have a light hitting this and then light hitting this form, but because this form is turning too far away, this can be moved into shadow. And then here would be the ribcage shadow dropping down like this. So you're looking at the shadow shapes. Here, this shadow. So this shadow up here is just part of the clothes. I'm not going to look at that. But this shadow down here, this is for this section. You'll see that the external obliques go into the abs. And so that this area here could be in shadow. Now let's shade all of this in. We're simplifying them so we're not, making little tiny shadows for everything. We want to just build out the main shadows for everything. Then I can erase some of the detail lines just so that things look smoother, and then have some more subtle ideas in belly button shadow like this, right? But that's not all. See, if we move the camera slightly, you can see that there's a shadow up here. So what this shadow is going to be part of this archway, right? This is your ribcage line, and then you'll see there's going to be a little bit of a shadow coming down from here, because your ribcage is literally like a cage, right? It has, like this kind of an angle to it, and it keeps all of your organs and heart and everything inside. So that's why you have a shadow like casting down like this. This is facing up, have going down like this, and then going down like that. So that's what that is. So this is the more subtler idea, but you do need to, pick up on the super detailed example. I mean, those aren't that detailed, but like you can pick up on the more like defined abs, and then you can slowly start to subtleize all of it. So let's look at let's just do abs one more time just to see. So let's put out ribcage coming down like this. I'm going to go with just a gesture. Let's go with that. Then let's go with ribcage, or like a pelvis like this. We have ribcage coming down like this, dropping down like this, just fixing proportions along the way. That we have our ab. So we have main ab, going down to the second ab like this, getting that line set up, really bringing out this ribcage arc, because this is going to help the other ab, like the false abs that are up here. And then we can bring out the edges of it, that they all pinch in at the belly button. So just think of all of these forms moving down onto the belly button. Then here we can have the external obliques up and down, have your iliac crest, your pelvis. So all of this is fundamentals building on top of each other, right? So like the prerequisites for something like this is basically everything that I was talking about that I just went over really quickly. The ribcage shape. Do you know the ribcage shape? Pelvis. Do you know the pelvis shape? Do you know your pelvis anatomy? Do you know about the iliac crest that goes into like the pubic symphysis, right? That goes into the femur bones, all of that, right? Iliac crest. Do you know how to simplify the pelvis into a square, into a bucket, into a more anatomically correct form? And then you can slowly start to add in everything, and everything attaches and builds on top of each other. You don't just jump into blah 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 blah. Yeah, I guess you could, but then you're gonna be really lost and confused. But if you're going through like the checklist, picking off and building your stats up in a smart way, then a lot of these ideas are super simple and self-explanatory. You'll be able to sort of curate and learn on your own more efficiently.